Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at the NBA on Tuesday here. Got some early lines. Still Monday night, late night here, so I can get ahead of some of this stuff with you guys. Maybe find some of the early value, and at the very least, show you what I'm going to be looking at here for Tuesday and the bets that I'll be putting on the card late night tonight as these things keep coming out, and then into the morning tomorrow. Still waiting on some of these games to finish to finalize this Monday card, but I think we're going to be up money tonight. Another winning night for the second night of a row, so I'm going to go through all that with you. If that all sounds good, give that video a like. Let's get right into it. We've seen some bad beats in the last few weeks here, really the last week or so. I don't know if any one of them was worse than the Grady Dick beats tonight. I hear myself, and I said what I said. Grady Dick over 3.5 boards, plus 140. He had 3 rebounds at the half. Grady Dick over 13.5 points. He had 12 points at the half. Didn't score a point, didn't get a rebound in the second half, didn't play the fourth quarter. My guess is coach, the Raptors coach, whose name I can never pronounce, wanted to just basically get Chris Boucher on the court and leave him there, because that was basically who took all of Grady Dick's minutes. And that was the guy who was spotting up to shoot threes for them, and he was hot. So the coach went with the hot hand. I don't know how to project that stuff, man. Grady Dick should have played 30 minutes tonight. He couldn't get close to it at this. What are you going to do? Just another weird, bad beat. Desmond Bane came through. He owed us. He hit the, I believe, ended with at least 20. Might have had 23 tonight. And then Valanciunas also ended up getting the 8 boards, which I felt was a very good look. And it kind of came to fruition where I knew he needed to play a few more minutes against the T-Wolves, because they have Rudy, and Rudy was just going to eat alive Alex Sarr and whomever else they would put in at the center spot. So they had Valanciunas come back in the fourth quarter when he might not normally have done so, and got us that last rebound to get us to 8. So appreciate that from Valanciunas there. And then Norm Powell right now, I believe, is at 7 points at the half, Max Christie at 4, and Zubac is at 9 boards. So glad we got that on there, but we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to get to these plays that I have, but as always, definitely make sure that you do tune in to the live show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern every weekday. And then on the weekends on Saturday, we go at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. You guys bring your bets. I share my screen and show you exactly how to find the value that you need to for Tuesday night's NBA slate. So let's get into what I'm looking at, though, right now. As always, going to be using propsmadness.com. If you're not familiar with this product, definitely going to be showing you around here as I go through the bets I'm looking at. And if you do want to jump in, you can get a free trial for about a week and use code LYB to get 25% off your first month. So let's get right into it and kick it off here with the first game on the slate that I'm looking at on Tuesday. Thunder and the Sixers in Philly. And we don't have Joel Embiid. We don't have Andre Drummond. We don't have, I believe, Kyle Lowry is also out, and a few others as well. Obviously, we know that Jared McCain out for the season. So without all of those guys, where do we turn? And the first dude I'm looking at here is Paul George. Now, we don't have lines up for most of these American books, but the beautiful part about Props Madness is it has a couple of European and Australian books. So they do get these lines up nice and early, even if they're not right or available. At least it helps us look at guys like Paul George now and run through some of the stats that are provided here on propsmadness.com. So the first thing I did was just look at Paul George without Joel Embiid and without Andre Drummond, because I know that this dude, when he's playing without those guys, is definitely good for the rebounds and assists. In fact, he's actually been good for the points as well. There's been 4 games now that he's played without those two, and other than this Charlotte Hornets game where he played 37 minutes, couldn't really get the boards, had a lot of assists and the points, right? And so PRA seems to be safe for him. We're not going to get that right now. It's probably going to be at about 27, 26 and a half, because this is a tough matchup against the Thunder. So we have to consider that. But let's look at the on-off court numbers for Paul George without those dudes, Andre Drummond, Joel Embiid, and a few other guys. So what I've got pulled up here on Fantasy Labs, this is linked in the description of the video for those of you that are not familiar with this tool. Highly recommend, because this shows us more so than just how does the player do when another guy is not playing in a game. How does he do in the moments in the game when he's playing without that guy on the floor, for example? So I put on court Kelly Oubre, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. I know they're going to be getting a good amount of minutes tomorrow, playing together a lot. And then off court, we have no Andre Drummond, McCain, Embiid, KJ Martin, or Kyle Lowry. They're all out according to the injury report already. So with that in mind, I want to look at how those 3 guys play on court with each other. And we can see here there's been, if you filter the minutes here, about 112 minutes that those 3 have played without the other guys. Gershon Yabusele is going to be the other starter. We know he starts alongside these four when there's nobody else on the floor. Caleb Martin is also questionable, so I left him out because we're not totally sure. But what we have here per 36 minutes, you can see for Paul George, most importantly, he's in the 112 minutes and 11 games where he's been in this situation without those guys and with these guys. We see his points are at about 18.5 per 36, but his rebounds are at about 9 and his assists are at about 7. So he's basically averaging 16 rebounds and assists per 36 minutes with the lineups that he's going to see on Tuesday night. Love that number. So right now, this is not a right line, but it's at 7.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. I would take this up to 12.5. I think he's going to be good for another about 14 or 15 rebounds and assists versus the Thunder. And I know it's the Thunder, and I know it's a really good defense. But at the very least, the rebounds are going to be a really good look against them. It's just that the rebounds and assists have been such an awesome hit rate for him. Both the boards and the assists basically hitting at 100%, other than that Charlotte game where he had 12 rebound chances and 2 rebounds. But this is going to be a much better rebounding situation for Paul George against the Thunder, who allow, you can just sort of use Props Madness to hover over the game that's coming up for them. And you can see all the stats for OKC. They're 28th in terms of total rebounds allowed. And then everything else for them on defense is first. They're number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 limiting points in the paint. And they're going to be really good against the pick and roll ball handler. We know how good this defense is. But for Paul George, the rebounds are going to be there for him. And I do think that the assists, if we get them at about 4.5 or so, and you can add them to the boards, I do think he's going to be, he's averaging 7 dimes, about 7 dimes per 36 minutes without those guys. So he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. We'll see what happens when these lines actually pop up on American books, but the rebounds are looking great, and adding the assists, still a very, very nice hit rate without those guys. On the other side, I do like Isaiah Hartenstein, and also don't have props yet up for him, except for this Ladbrokes book out in Australia. But for Hartenstein, I love the boards, and I think the points and rebounds are good. And this really comes down to matchup. We targeted in the last game that this the 76ers played the other day here. We had Gershon go up as the center, right, for them and they in their last matchup. And it was Joe Val on the Wizards kind of just took off and went off against them, right? So if you look at I'm not going to be betting on Gershon. I'm betting on Isaiah Hartenstein against Gershon. So I'm going to like him at 11.5 boards. I'm going to like him at 11.5 points, something that he's done super frequently, but this is totally matchup based. And I do think this game will be relatively close before the Thunder pull away. It's at least in the first half. Usually the Thunder, if you look at them, are like the best third quarter team in the league. Not even close, actually, like far and away the best third quarter team in the league. It's a part of how they pull away from teams, and I think that's when they'll do most of their damage. But that should give Isaiah Hartenstein 3 good quarters of his normal minutes. So I love him to get the points and the rebounds in this one, assuming that they do come out at 11.5. Next look I have is in this Pelicans and Bulls game, and the total on that game is rising. It opened at like 232, already at about 238.5 as I'm recording this on Monday night. So what I'm looking at here in this game, obviously Zach LaVine's been going straight off. You can see here in the last 6 games, he's just been at least 31 points in all of the last 6, playing some pretty good defenses. I mean, when you consider the Knicks and the Spurs, not really the Kings or the Wizards, kind of the Pacers. Most importantly, though, for LaVine is that he's just taking all the shots. Now, I don't know if I'm as feeling as dicey as 27.5 points for LaVine, and Kobe White is questionable. So this could go up for Zach LaVine if Kobe White doesn't play. Ayo Dosunmu also questionable for them, but I don't want to deal with the Bulls. I actually think this is going to be a blowout. I am taking the Pelicans minus 2.5 in this game. That's crazy that they're only 2.5 point dogs. And I know that the Pelicans have been one of, if not the worst team, we'll say one of the worst teams in the NBA this season. But they have Zion back, Trey Murphy's healthy, CJ McCollum, and DeJounte Murray. The only guys missing, Ingram and Herb Jones for them. So I think there's going to be points galore against one of the worst defenses in the league in the Chicago Bulls. You can see if you hover over them, they are ranked 24th in defensive rating and really 30th in a lot of stuff, including giving up a ton of assists. So the guy that I'm looking at here is DeJounte Murray, because DeJounte Murray, even in the last 4 games when Zion's been there for a few of them and Trey Murphy's come back, right, whatever. In these games, he's had far and away more touches than anybody else on the floor for the New Orleans Pelicans. So right now I've got pulled up NBA stats page. And if you look at this, you can toggle things from teams to players. I'm going to the tracking data here to look at touches, to see really who's the one controlling the ball, who's the guy that's running the offense. And it's so clearly DeJounte Murray in the last 5 games. Now, granted, Trey Murphy, Zion, they've missed some time. But if you look at touches and filter to that, he's at 83 touches per game in the last 5. 21 points, but a lot of time of possession, a lot of dribbles. He's the guy bringing the ball up the court and the one running everything, right? So I think that's going to continue to be the case. CJ McCollum taking a little bit of a back seat as a result of all this. So I do think DeJounte is going to be great for the assists in this one, because we always target point guard assists against the just doo-doo Chicago defense, which gives up a ton of them. This is probably going to be at 8.5, but I think that this is going to be a look for DeJounte to get a double-double in this one, something to the tune of an assist ladder, so you get him up to about 10 assists that you believe he's going to get in this one. I think he's just going to continue to be the guy getting all of the assists. If we look at, instead of touches data, you can change this to passing. And same thing here. I want to make this just the New Orleans Pelicans, and I want to look at, let's say, the last 5 games where there's been most of their team around. And in those last 5 games, if you look at passes made, again, DeJounte Murray, 18 passes more than anyone. The passes received are important as well, because it shows us that he's the point guard at the top of the key, making a pass. If the offense or the action isn't there, the ball comes right back to him, and now he runs it somewhere else. So everything's going to be running through him. Even when it's Zion on the floor, he's going to be getting the ball to Zion, but it's going to be his offense. The potential assists in these last 4 also up at about 14. So for him to get 8 in this game, and like I said, this will probably be up at 8.5 in the morning when you guys are able to, most of you are starting to watch this. It'll be 8.5. I still think he's good for 9. I think we'll see these potential assists up at about 16, and he'll be diming up all these dudes like Trey Murphy and even CJ McCollum, but definitely Zion and Trey Murphy. Those are the guys I like to score in this game as well. And the thing that we should look at for Chicago and how they play defense, what I've got here is on NBA Advanced Stats page, I've got teams instead of players. You can see how you can change that here. I've got opponent shooting up. Normally this would be on general. And then under opponent shooting, I'm on general. So I know this is confusing, but hopefully you can watch this back. Use this tool for yourself. Also linked in the description of the video, but it's just nba.com/stats, right? And then you can figure it out from there. I can change the shot range from anything I want, but I can look at specifically pull-ups and catch and shoot. And this is really important. And this is what I tell people is, like, when you're looking at how a player is going to do against a team, know if that team's defense is good against the catch and shoot shot or the pull-up shot, because that's really the result of the coach's philosophy on defense. So if the coach thinks that he wants to put more ball pressure on, then you're going to see a little bit better for the catch and shoot. Stuff like that. We'll get into it more later, but on the live show at 5:30. But for this team, if we're looking at the Bulls, they give up a ton of shots off of both. They're really bad on defense, as we know. But off of the pull-up especially, they're going to be giving up a lot of shots. That's where I'd be looking at CJ on the points. But everybody is going to have the ability to score in this one. I just love DeJounte on the assists and even the points and assists, because right now at 15.5, the points are pretty low as well. Quick reminder, go ahead and give that video a like if you're getting anything out of what we're bringing here as we move on to the Kings and to the Bucks. And right now we've got Malik Monk as the only guy that we really need to know about on the injury report. He's questionable for the Kings. Chris Middleton is out. I suppose that's important as well, but he's not. We don't have to wait on any news. He's already out. In this game, if we're looking at the Bucks, I do want to go to some shooting for them and the way that they play defense, similar to what I was just talking about. The Bucks, the Kings rather, they give up a ton off the catch and shoot. That's really where they're worst. And I'm just going to go right back to where we just were. And instead of pull up, I'm going to look at the catch and shoot numbers here, and you're going to see the Kings give up a ton. In terms of the frequency with which they give up that shot, the 4th highest frequency of the shots against them are going to be off of the catch and shoot. If you look at the 3-point frequency, another bad number here, 5th most, and the 3-pointers made off the catch and shoot for them also going to be about 7th most. So this team is going to play high ball pressure on the ball handler on the other team, the point guard, and force the ball out of that person's hands to guys who are going to be pretty open in the catch and shoot. And that's why I do like guys like Gary Trent and AJ Green tomorrow. But Gary Trent for the Bucks is also questionable. I should have admit, he's just as important, honestly, in terms of his questionable tag as Malik Monk is to the Kings, especially because of his shooting. Now, if he's out, the guy that we then turn to, Taurean Prince, he's going to continue to be a threat from 3, even if he gets like 4 or 5. What's his threes prop at? 1.5, right? You can see -125, because this team, not only do they give up, if we scroll down, we can see not only do they give up a ton off the spot up, the most off spot up, which is same as catch and shoot, but they also give up a ton up off in the corners, right? And that's been the case since last season. And that is where you see Taurean Prince here. If I'm looking at the player shot chart, he's taking about 32% of his shots from the corner 3. So I do like the idea of Giannis and Dame spraying the ball and getting assists against this Kings team, and guys like AJ Green, Gary Trent, Taurean Prince to score. I need to know if Gary Trent is playing to be able to figure this out, if I do like it yet or not, right? But you can see that there's going to be some good opportunity for those guys to get theirs against the Kings. For the Kings, I want to take us back to Fantasy Labs for a minute because I think it's actually really interesting that if you look at De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Domas Sabonis, and Malik Monk, and you put all 4 of those guys on the court this season together, when they've played now a total of about 357 minutes together at the same time on the floor. And you look at the numbers here, what's really interesting to me is that Malik Monk is at 6.4 assists and 4.2 rebounds per 36 minutes. And he's at about 32 minutes per game. So he's good for about 10 rebounds and assists, and he's getting more assists than is De'Aaron Fox when he plays with D Fox. In fact, if you look at his numbers with De'Aaron Fox, by just selecting him under here, you can go games with or without, add D Fox to this and say he's playing all the games he's played with De'Aaron Fox. He's actually averaging a better assist number per game at 6 exactly with Fox versus without him. And yeah, this is like all the games this season. And this has been since he's come into the starting lineup. So you can actually see in the past roughly 20 games, it gets better the more recently you look at, because since he got inserted into the starting lineup, that's when we've seen his assist numbers rise. So I love the 5.5 assists. I even like the rebounds at 3.5 and adding them together and taking the rebounds and assists at about 9.5 for even money or so. Now it's not available on all the books, so I think both of these are good as individual props as well for Malik Monk. But this is where I'm going, as assuming he's obviously in, and it might even be worth it to take it while he's questionable. Because if he doesn't play at all tomorrow, it's just a voided bet as long as he doesn't step foot on the court at all. One more reminder, we are going live 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Me and David, live show producer David, as I've now dubbed him, will be there at 5:30 p.m. Eastern with you guys to take your bets. You jump in the comments, let us know what you want to look at, and we'll go ahead and take care of that stuff together. But remember, you don't need to get all these bets out the night before. We still want to know about lineups. There's so much randomness in the NBA with the injury news, especially in January as teams start tanking, and we don't know who's trying, right? We need to know what lineups are. So be a little bit patient with that stuff. Like I said, this Malik Monk bet I love, but I do want to know who's in and out in this game of the guys that are questionable before I put too much down. So that's what we got the live show for, to make sure that we can get everything with as much info at our disposal as possible. But best of luck until I see you guys tomorrow. And until then, happy betting.